Guys, we got this 2019 Ram 3500 in the shop. We just went through and did an oil cooler on this thing. Did the whole flush and everything. I told him drive it for a little bit and then bring it back, and we're going to replace some of the hoses because some of them are getting problematic and swelling, which, to be common, he did put a ton of miles on it after the fact, and this one was already swelling. So we're replacing literally every hose for the cooling system under this engine bay. Now, with that being said, the point of this video, should you buy a 5th gen or 2019 plus Cummins? I don't know if we can really call them 5th gens. I don't care to call them that. I think it was completely stupid that we've just decided to call these 5th gens because it's literally a 4th gen bed and everything. All they've done is upgrade lights and change some engine stuff, and it is no different than a 3rd gen when they went from the 03 standard output HO, 04, and then 06 they did a facelift, and then 07 they changed the engine completely to a 6.7 and changed the transmission options, multiple different transmission changes, multiple different engine changes. So to call this a 5th gen is honestly a piss poor, like it's just, the fact that we're calling these 5th gens is just brain dead, in my opinion. But that aside, should you buy one? Now, these things get a lot of flack. The 2019 and the 2020s, they had a CP4. This one's one of the earlier ones. This was not covered in the recall, so he is still running. This one obviously has some parts missing, but this thing is 99% original, still has the lifters. This guy does in between 10 and 13,000 mile oil changes, and like I said, still has the lifters. Now, I can come in here. I'm going to show you guys. This is a limited. You know, you put the stuff down and whatnot, but look at those miles right there. 464,000 miles. And it still has the lifters. Now, my point in that, this truck is worked. Pretty much living in this truck because it's a hotshot truck. So he goes out, he pulls power only. And that's where I think a lot of the reliability comes from this truck. A lot of guys, if you're going to go out and you're going to buy a 2019 plus truck and you're just going to use it to drive to the grocery store or, you know, take your kids to the park or do whatever big truck guys do. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. If you're going to do that, you have two options. You're going to buy a 2019 plus and you're going to convert it back to the flat tappets and you're going to spend a stupid amount of money. And the only reason for you to do that is flexing. You don't really have a reason to own a truck. You're just flexing at that point. That's really, people just have too much money, right? Or two, if you want a diesel truck that you just can grocery get, you go and you buy a 2019 or a 2018 or back like this. This is a 3rd generation truck. You can grocery get any Cummins truck from 2018 back as long as they are deleted. No DPF, none of that stuff. Same thing with this. Obviously, throw the emission stuff in the garbage. These trucks with the flat tappets and just driving them around, they are not made to just drive around and be putt-putted. Like, you need to actually drive them and put some heat into them. But the same thing comes down with the Fords and the GMs. I don't know what to tell you guys with those, between all the different changes they did on the 6.7, between all the changes that they did on the 6.6 and the 6.0 and the 6.4 and all that. I don't know what to tell you guys with that. All I can tell you is, from a Ram perspective, these are not trucks just for anybody to go out and grocery get if you're going to buy a 19 plus. Diesels in general, most people don't need a diesel truck. I get the hype around it. I love having a diesel truck. That thing, when I'm just driving it around and having it home and this and that, like, and just driving it, that thing's super cheap. It gets better fuel mileage than my wife's Dakota. It's faster. It's more practical. It has more room. I can take the kids everywhere. Doesn't matter how much it weighs. It just fires up and I can just drive it anywhere. And it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about soot buildup anywhere. I don't have to worry about EGR. I don't have to worry about tappets or lifters or any of that. No problem at all. These trucks, not the same. Electronics out the ass. There are so many different electronics on these things. But even just with that being said, look at all the room that you don't have to work in this thing. Like with the EGR cooler gone, you have a lot more room. But to pull this, you have to pull the liner out to pull the turbo. On the 19 Plus is not as bad, but again, you're working through here. So these are just my 2 cents, whether you should buy these or not. Personally, I don't think most people should buy a 2019 Plus. But it comes down to it, like, if you're going to buy a brand new truck, it's like, this is your options. So, and I think it's only getting worse and worse over time. We're adding all these electronics and all these different features. They're becoming more and more of a fire hazard, especially with all the electronics. The lifters, personally, if you're going to buy one of these and you're going to hot shot it, absolutely, that's a different story, but you need to be making your payments on time and doubling them up, if not tripling them up. You need to make the payments by the miles. If you're just paying the monthly payment, the chances of you paying a $100,000 truck off in 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is, because, I mean, let's be real here. These guys put the miles on them. But that's my 2 cents. So we're gonna drain the coolant, dump a concoction in here, get it as cleaned out as possible with some of the degreaser. I'm gonna fill this thing up as much as possible, get the coolant cycling through, and then we are gonna pull every single hose off, drain the cooling system again, and that's where tonight's going to be. I've got plenty of buckets sitting over here and plenty of distilled water. So let's get this thing fired up and cleaned out. All right, so I got the thermostat out and topped everything off. And we're just going to let it run without a thermostat. And this thermostat was giving us problems. So we're going to end up replacing it. But we're going to let this thing run for about 30 minutes. Let her get up to temp. Well, it's probably not going to get up to temp, but you know what I mean. Let it run for about 30 minutes. Then we're going to drain everything. Then we're going to pull all the hoses off. I got to get this wheel off. So just let it run for a while. So right now, what I'm doing is getting it drained. I'm using compressed air for some things, but this thing has a ton of crap at the bottom. So I put a nub on the bottom just to be able to take care of that. But this is dumping. There's definitely oil in that. So we're gonna get the rest of that cleaned out. And most of it was residual from this. There was so much in there. So don't think we have any more problems. I replaced that like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So it just, yeah, I mean, it needed replaced. But this thing's gonna need cleaned out. So I've just kind of been doing enough to agitate it. There is a concoction in there. I know it leaks out the bottom. I usually put my finger over that, but just trying to get that cleaned out as much as possible and then replacing all of the hoses. So both heater core lines. I even went, because I didn't like the chintzy design that this had. He said he had to JB weld that at one point. And when they installed this, it's supposed to go to the manifold stud, and that wasn't to it. So we got this one here that pretty much goes in, and then this will catch it. So this pretty much sits like that, and then it bolts to it, and it's adjustable. So that's the new design for that. And then everything else, pretty much every single hose in this thing is getting replaced. So, but this reservoir is the main problem. So we need to take care of that without replacing it. Agitated it a little too much. It's just going to be a long, drawn-out process of cleaning this whole thing out. This is not a fun process. There's a million different ways to do it. This is how we're doing it. So we're getting it cleaned out. This is a long and intensive job. Look at that. But it's just one of those, you got to have patience. So this is all nice and cleaned out. And then I take the vacuum. Before I put the thermostat and the upper hose back in, getting in there. The camera makes that look bad. Hold on a second. Yeah, so most of the oil is out. That's not oil. On the camera, that looks like oil. That's not oil. That's just the color of the block. But I take the vacuum, suck it in there, try to block off as many holes as possible, but you do want some pressure coming back, and it gets a lot of it out. So that thing's probably full of about 2 gallons worth of water right now. So these guys will get replaced, and slow and steady. So I'm going to put the new upper hose in. And these things are super easy to install. And then the brand new 190 degree thermostat. Now, these are what I've been using. I don't know how much of that you guys saw, but these are what I've been using. This is what was in the truck originally. Everything else, every single hose here, minus this delete hose for the EGR, minus this kit, all of this is from the dealership. No part store crap. Now you can use the parts store reservoirs, stuff like that. Thermostats, these are 3 bolts. Not really a big deal. But that's what was in it. Guys never had problems with them. So, I'm going to put this back in. This is all from the dealer. There is no Duncannon, yeah. So, from Sioka. So when I do these, you're getting OE parts or a good aftermarket part, or I will install parts store stuff if you recommend it. I do not like to use them at all whatsoever. So, let's start putting hoses in, and then I'm going to vacuum this out from the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to get down here to that guy right there, and we'll start sucking with the vacuum from there. All right, so all the lines are back on to the engine side. The only one I haven't hooked up yet is this. And the main reason is, if you guys look down in there, I'm still fighting getting that last little bit of gunk out, but even on the side, I have taken pressurized air, I've taken the vacuum to it, I've taken a lot of different ways. I've done it from the bottom to the top. There's a little bit under there where you're not really supposed to be able to get it. Now, the downside, I could go ahead and pull this entire thing, but there's only 2 different ways that you can pull it. One, you have to drain the AC and plop it down, which obviously we're not going to do. Or, way number 2, you have to take the battery tray, the intake, everything, all of that needs to come out to be able to pull that out. Absolute pain in the ass of a job. So I'm gonna get with the customer and see what he wants to do. But I'm gonna keep going. Obviously, I can take a baster and get down in the bottom, but it's getting to the side and whatnot. Definitely becoming a problem. We're into this about 4 hours now at this point. I started at 6:30 and it's, I think, 10:45 right now. So, but everything's replaced, pulled off. Like, these hoses were just trashed. Now, keep in mind, I think all of these were original hoses anyway, and he had put about 3 months worth of driving on a bad oil cooler. So that's probably why all of them were a problem. And I did go ahead and replace this with this style. I'm not 100% a fan of that, and I hope it doesn't leak. Hopefully it doesn't leak, but I mean, everything's in. I did have to cut that hose back there to length. Not really a big deal, but other than that, everything else went in. Nothing was like too big of a pain in the ass, but let's be real, there were a couple of hoses that were a pain in the ass. So, next step is just getting that reservoir clean, getting this thing buttoned up with coolant. I think I have enough coolant in stock, but yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So we just went and took it on a test drive. No coolant leaks. Went and washed everything. Look how nice and pretty that is. This one I actually scrubbed for him because there was a little bit of black, but I make sure to take care of that. No scratches, none of that shit. So all cleaned up. Let's check under here. Look how nice and pretty she looks. That's always been I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but I sprayed her. He did say, just send it, and it is what it is, not really a big deal. And then this guy right here is not leaking, it looks like. So that's the new design, and then the old design here pretty much goes in, and then there's a collar that like holds it back into place. And the thing I don't like about that is like it wasn't really supported, it's just a big ugly bracket that's supposed to go to one of those, but I don't know. So this, I'm not a fan of this either, but I mean, it does the trick, I guess. So, I mean, I guess just run it. I'm going to check the coolant here in about 10-15 minutes once it's cooled down, top it off, and then probably give it another good 20-30 minute drive. This one here, got to put this back on. And then we're pretty much done for the night. And then we got a 6.0 coming in tomorrow to do some up pipes. And other than that, let's get this thing out of here. Well, she is done now, and we were going to wait till the morning, but I'm like, hey, it'll be done by 12:30 tonight, or, 12:30 a.m. He's like, all right, I'm on my way. Nice weight reduced 2019. I think it's got a little bit of a lifter, thump, 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 but I think that's what that is. But the truck also has 460,000 miles. He said it's done it for a long time. So I took it on a good drive, you know, and it only ever got up to like 202, and then she plummeted back down. It does have a 190 thermostat in it, so that's about normal for it bleeding, getting the air out of it. And the low coolant light came on, topped her back off, she's good to go. So, and these things are not hard to trip, the low coolant light. Like every one of the 4th gens and 5th gens in this case, they all do it. A lot of them have sensor problems, but this one just a little bit low. But getting used to those turn signals, when you turn the wheel, the light turns on the left or the light. I don't like that. Too much technology for me. I don't know. Too much technology for me. I'm not into it. I show him everything. Once he gets back, he can come pick it up, and this thing is leaving tonight. And then in for the 6.0. Glad I don't gotta be the one to work on it.